Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having an amazing day. I'm about to dive into a story that might just make your blood boil. It's about a homeowners association, overreaching like never before, and the lengths I had to go to in order to protect what was mine. This is the kind of story where standing your ground isn't just important, it's necessary. It all started a few years ago when my wife and I bought a house. Now, let me set the scene for you. It's a nice place, pretty private, and it's got a long driveway that stretches about 400 feet from the main road to our house. We call it our little slice of peace. Our house is tucked away, so much so that when we first moved in, I thought I had found the perfect place. The privacy was incredible. We were away from all the noise of the neighborhood, but still close enough to everything we needed. We loved it. And the best part? The driveway. That long, winding driveway was one of the main reasons we bought the place. It's not just a driveway. It looked more like a private road. We even ended up spending nearly $5,000 to upgrade it from cracked, old asphalt to a beautiful set of interlocking pavers. It took weeks to do it, but when it was finished, it was something we were proud of. My wife and I were so happy with how it turned out. And honestly, the neighbors seemed to be impressed too. Things were great until one spring day, when everything changed. One Tuesday evening, I came home from work, and to my surprise, I couldn't get into my own driveway. 3 SUVs were parked there, blocking the entire entrance. Not just casually parked, like they were on a mission. No one was around, and these cars were taking up every inch of the space. I sat in my car, staring, trying to make sense of it. Maybe it was some sort of emergency? But no. The cars weren't damaged, no one seemed to be in trouble. So I got out of the car and walked up to see if I could find out who owned these vehicles. And that's when I saw it. Right there at the entrance to my driveway, a brand new metal sign. Professional lettering, shiny and sleek. It looked expensive. The sign read, "Overflow guest parking, authorized by neighborhood association." For a solid 5 minutes, I stood there staring at it, unable to process what I was reading. This was my driveway, not some community lot. I paid for those pavers, I paid for everything, and now this HOA had the audacity to say I was wrong. They couldn't just take it. One of my neighbors, a woman from 2 houses down, saw me standing there looking confused. She casually waved and yelled out that she was glad the HOA had finally solved the parking problem. She was hosting her book club next week, and now they wouldn't have to worry about parking. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a mistake. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was them trying to take my property and act like it was their right. I asked her if she knew anything about this new parking arrangement. She looked at me like I was the one confused. She told me that the HOA had decided to designate my driveway as community property because it connected to the walking trail and provided access to the green space. She said the HOA had been discussing it at their meetings, and this was the solution to the parking issue during neighborhood events. This was the moment when I realized just how far they were willing to go. Not only was my driveway being stolen for parking, but the HOA was trying to rewrite the rules as if they had some God-given right to my land. I spent the next few days fighting back. I called the HOA office. The board president, a woman named Karen, answered the phone. She wasn't the slightest bit apologetic. In fact, she laughed when I told her it was my private property. She dismissed my concerns like I was overreacting. She told me that the board had already voted on the issue, and the parking arrangement was final. She wouldn't even give me any written documentation about this decision, just insisted that it was a done deal, and I should just accept it for the good of the community. I wasn't going to just roll over. I started digging. I pulled out all the property documents from when we bought the house. I spent hours going through every single page. And you know what? My driveway was clearly outlined as my private property, and the easement for the utility lines had nothing to do with guest parking. But I wasn't done yet. I took the documents to the county clerk's office and pulled the original surveys and land records from the development in 1993. The HOA was in deep trouble. It turned out that the HOA had no legal claim to my driveway. The trail easement was separate from my driveway, and the HOA couldn't just claim that my driveway was community property. Armed with this legal knowledge, I called Karen again. This time, her attitude shifted, but she was still dismissive. Over the next week, things got even worse. The HOA had hired a teenager to direct cars into my driveway. Cars started parking there regularly, leaving tire marks and oil stains all over the pavers. I was furious. I had to do something about this, and that's when the legal route started looking too slow. I had to make them see just how serious I was. The neighborhood's big annual spring event was coming up. Everyone would be attending, and this was the perfect opportunity. I rented 4 massive concrete barriers and had them placed right in front of my driveway, blocking all access. Then I put up a new sign that read, "Private property, unauthorized vehicles subject to storage fees of $500 per hour. By parking here, you agree to these terms." The morning of the event, I could barely sleep, but I knew I had to follow through. At 5 a.m., the barriers were in place, and the HOA couldn't do anything about it. When cars started arriving, they stopped in front of the barriers, confused. It didn't take long for Karen to call me, furious. She demanded I remove the barriers immediately. I stayed calm and told her that I had every right to block access to my private property. When she threatened to call the police, I told her to go ahead. The police arrived, and after reviewing all the documents, they sided with me. The HOA had no legal ground to be using my driveway for parking. It was a civil matter, and they couldn't force me to remove the barriers. The event was ruined. People couldn't park, and some cars were blocked in. The HOA president came up with a new offer. She promised to remove the guest parking signs, acknowledge my property boundaries, and pay for professional cleaning of the driveway. But I wasn't going to let them off that easy. I told her I wanted the agreement in writing before I did anything. By the end of the day, Karen was desperate. She agreed to everything, and I finally removed the barriers. The signs were taken down that evening, and the driveway was cleaned the following Tuesday. But the best part? I used the settlement money to install a beautiful iron gate at the entrance to my driveway. No more unauthorized parking. Here's the lesson I learned. Know your property rights, do your homework, and when it comes to standing your ground, don't back down. Sometimes, you have to make a bold move to make people take you seriously. I could have gone the legal route, but that would have taken months. Instead, I made the HOA feel the consequences of their actions. And let me tell you, once the new board took over, they were much more respectful of property rights. The whole thing taught me that standing up for what's yours doesn't just protect you, it can inspire others to do the same. The HOA president eventually resigned, and the community began to respect boundaries in ways they never had before. The final result? A beautiful private driveway, a lesson learned, and a newfound sense of justice.